everyone. Today we will be dividing with dividend decimals. So what that means is a decimal will be in what we call the dividend, which is the number that is being divided or the number that goes within the house. So before we start to divide, we're just going to go over our order of dividing and our rules for dividing before we start. So our order of dividing is DMSBR, which means divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and repeat. Or as we call it, does McDonald's sell burgers regularly? So we're going to follow those steps as we divide today. The other thing we need to talk about is our rules for dividing. So we have some rules. We know that the divisor is the number we divide by and it goes outside of the house. The dividend is the number being divided and it actually goes inside the house. And then always when we are looking at division problems, the first number is the number that goes inside the division house. So we have 3 examples today. We're going to go ahead and start working on those examples together about how to divide with dividend decimals. So I'm going to move my paper up and we're going to get started. So my first problem is 2 5/10 divided by the number 5. So I'm going to take my 2 colors, red and blue. The red is going to represent the dividend or the number that goes inside the house. So the number that goes inside the house for this problem is 2 5/10. And the number that goes outside the house is going to be the number 5, because that is what we are dividing by. So when I have a dividend decimal, that means that the decimal within the house is not going to move any spaces to the left or right. We cannot move that decimal. So what we do is we have to bring that decimal up, and that is where our decimal is going to stay. Now, I have to include my dashes for place value so I know what I'm actually getting as my answer, because I will be getting a decimal answer today. So now I can start dividing. 5 goes into 2, 0 times, because 2 is smaller than 5. So I'm going to write a 0 up above the line. Then I'm going to multiply 0 times 5, which is 0. I'm going to go ahead and do my next step, which is subtract. 2 minus 0 is 2. And then I'm going to bring down my next number. I'm not going to worry about bringing down the decimal because the decimal has already been placed on top of the house. And I'm just going to worry about bringing down the numbers. So now I have 25. And I know that 5 can go into 25 5 times, because 5 times 5 is 25. I multiplied. Now I subtract, and I get 0. So I have no remainder, and I have now finished dividing 2 5/10 by 5, and I ended up with an answer of 0.5 or 5/10. And I'm done. Pretty simple and easy when we're talking about dividend decimals. We just know that most of the time our answer will end up with a decimal point. So let's go ahead. We're going to get started on the next one. So I'm going to change my colors. I have 30.9. So 30 9/10. And it is being divided by the number 3. So before I start to divide, I have to bring my decimal point up to the top of the house. And I need to label out all my place values that I might fill today. So I have 3 place values that I might be filling. So let's start dividing. 3 goes into 3 1 time, because 1 times 3 is 3. I am going to go ahead and subtract it, and I'm left with 0. Now, I still have to keep going because there is still a number 9 I got to get to. So I have to bring down the 0, and now I'm left with 0. Well, I need a number above that place value even though this is 0. So 3 goes into 0 times. So 0 times 3 is 0. I subtract them. I get 0. And now I can start to bring down that number 9. Remember, I'm skipping the decimal point. I don't need to bring that down. It's already gone on top of the house. And now I see how many times does 3 go into 9? Well, 3 goes into 9 3 times because 3 times 3 is 9. I subtract and I get 0. So my answer of 30 and 9/10 divided by 3 is going to be 10 and 3/10. Good. Easy thing to do. So we're going to keep on moving. We're going to do a little bit more difficult, challenging problem where my divisor has 2 numbers in it. So I am going to take my dividend 4 and 48/100 and I'm going to put it inside the house. Then I'm going to take my divisor of 14 and it's going to go outside the house. Now, before I can start dividing, I of course have to bring up my decimal point to the top of the house. And I now have to put a place value little holder above each of the numbers that I'm dividing. That way I know that I'm not dividing until I at least fill out all those place values. So let's go ahead and we're going to start dividing. We are going to see if 14 can go into the number 4. And because 4 is smaller than 14, I know that this number above 4 should be 0 because I need to get some more numbers down. So 14 times 0 is 0. I do my next step, which is subtracting. 4 minus 0 is still 4. And I have to bring down the next 4. Remember, I'm not bringing down that decimal. That decimal is going to stay right where it is because I've already moved it to the top of the house. Now I am going to go ahead and divide 14 into 44. Because I'm still not very strong at my 14's timetable, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply off to the side a reasonable guess as to how many times 14 goes into 44. And I'm going to say it's 3. So I'm going to guess it's 3. And I'm going to multiply. 3 times 4 is 12. And because 12 has 2 digits, I carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Plus 1 is 4. And now I've reached 42. Well, 42 is less than 44, and it's extremely close. So I don't think I can add another 14 to this. So I think the closest answer I could get would be 3. So 3 times 14, we already know is 42. I'm going to do my next step, which is subtract. I get 2 left over, and I bring down my 8. Now I need to see how many times does 14 go into 28. Well, I knew 14 went into 42 at 3 times, so let's do 2 times. 14 times 2. 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 1 is 2. So that equals 28. That's equal to 28. So that means that this number is 2. And 2 times 14 is 28. When I subtract those 2 numbers, I end up with a remainder of 0. And I have finished dividing. So my answer to my problem of 4 and 48/100 divided by 14 is going to be 32/100. And now I'm officially done dividing with dividend decimals. So now it's your turn. Go ahead and complete the exit ticket on dividing dividend decimals.